First of all, thank you for being here this afternoon. My name is Ted Sexton, the Sheriff of Tuscaloosa County. This is Steve Anderson, the Chief of the Tuscaloosa Police Department. Lloyd Baker, who is the Commander of the Tuscaloosa County Metro Homicide Unit, and Chief Deputy Harry Montgomery. Last night, February 3rd at 11:30 p.m., the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office responded to an apartment complex in the 5300 block of Ken Seeley Drive in Cottondale on a shooting call. Deputies were immediately assisted by officers from the Tuscaloosa Police Department, and upon arrival, they located 4 victims in one apartment and another victim in another apartment in another building of the complex. All had suffered gunshot wounds. 3 of the victims sustained life-threatening wounds. The Tuscaloosa Fire Department North Star Ambulance treated the victims and transported all to DCH. A request was made to the Tuscaloosa Police Department for additional manpower, specifically to address crowd control and crime scene preservation. The crime occurred when 2 males entered an apartment occupied by several teenagers where a birthday party was being held. The suspects produced handguns and demanded money. The suspects opened fire on the occupants of the apartment, striking 5 people. An 18-year-old male who was apparently armed when he came to the party at the time returned fire at the armed suspects. One of the 2 armed suspects was hit and was later observed being dropped off in the parking lot of DCH Hospital by a private vehicle. The suspect underwent emergency surgery at DCH and is currently being treated for serious gunshot wounds. Tuscaloosa police assisted by taking a second suspect, Donald Deshaun Wynn, he's age 23, into custody at a relative's house in Cottondale. Wynn has since been charged with 5 counts of robbery in the first degree, 2 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of burglary in the first degree, 2 counts of assault in the second degree, and 1 count of assault in the first degree. Wynn was not injured in the altercation. The investigation continues and more arrests may be forthcoming. The victims are as follows: a 17-year-old male shot in the chest, currently last known critical condition, an 18-year-old male shot in the side, stable condition, an 18-year-old female shot in the abdomen, last known to be in critical condition, 18-year-old male shot in the arm, stable condition, and a 20-year-old male shot in the leg was released from DCH last evening. Now, the 23-year-old male suspect was shot in the abdomen and is currently in stable condition at this time. We'll try to answer any questions, and we will ask that they be related to this particular case.
Was there a lot of pre-planning? Can you tell at this point, I mean, just to come up on a birthday party to rob?
Well, the matter is still in the early stages of investigation. We've been investigating this just a little over 12 hours, and so it's been very fast and fluid, and I cannot thank Chief Anderson for assisting us with additional manpower. And of course, the Metro Homicide Unit is comprised of officers from Northport and the University as well, who have also been involved in this investigation. But there are a number of parties. It's a difficult investigation. We have victims in the hospital, a number of witnesses that scattered throughout the apartment complex. And I was on scene last night with them, and it was a large scene to preserve the evidence.
So 1 person you're still looking for?
Well, I haven't said anything about that. I just said we may have additional arrests.
Okay.
But if anybody has any information, we would certainly appreciate them coming forward.
Would anything lead you to believe that this might be gang-related?
Well, it's still too early to say at this time as we go through this as to what the actual motive was. Again, I'd like to stress that our victims are in the hospital. We have not had the opportunity to speak to all of the victims. We're still gathering witnesses, and we should be able to provide additional information as the case moves forward, but it is under investigation.
Talk a little bit about the apartment complex and the part of town this is in. Is it a known high crime area or troubles in the past?
We've answered calls in this particular area. It's behind the Waffle House on Skyland Boulevard at the interstate. I wouldn't call it a high crime neighborhood, but we've responded to calls out there. This is the first shooting incident of any kind I'm aware of in that area.
Is this a student complex or mostly just adults?
No, I'd say it's mixed adults.
Okay.
Is this a supervised party? Was there adults on the scene? Any indication of alcohol or drugs or anything?
Well, 18-year-olds would be considered adults under state law, but yes, there appears to have been alcohol at the party. I'm sure your next question is drugs. I can't say if there were drugs in the apartment. I can say there were plenty of drugs outside the window. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. There were drugs found outside the window, so I'm assuming that they came from inside the apartment. But again, the matter's under investigation, and that'll be ongoing as we go.
Any indication that that is what this is related to?
We're 12 hours into the investigation. We have not spoken with the victims, and we have a number of things that we will continue to follow up on. But one of the keys is going to be just the availability of talking to the victims and finding out the association between the suspect and the
What's the
victim.
actual name of the apartment complex?
Eddins, I believe.
Eddins Estates.
Eddins Estates.
Eddins Estates.
Yes, sir.
So, but can you, early reports you had, 2 gentlemen went into this apartment armed, a 3rd gentleman at the party produced a weapon, and that was the exchange of weapons, and
Yes, the third individual you're referring to is not considered a suspect at this time. He's not considered a suspect.
The type of weapons used on the scene,
Handguns.
38.
The matter's under investigation. We're 12 hours in, and when we go through the forensic process and identify those types of issues, will be released.
Now,
What-
if this is if this is a party, there was obviously a lot of witnesses. How many people are you dealing with and trying to get statements from and corralling into this one location? Are you looking for even more witnesses?
We're dealing with several people, and if there are persons that we have not had the opportunity to talk to, or they're at this party, we'd certainly appreciate the opportunity to visit with them and to get their statements.
At these apartments, can you give us an apartment number or even a building number at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay.
You said, just point of clarification, when the man you have in custody, correct? Was
Yeah.
he the one that was injured or
No.
and treated?
You'll get a written copy of the press briefing I just gave you, so that should clarify it for you. But Wynn was not injured.